So we're joined by my friend Kirby Cobb, owner of For Your Glory Beauty here in the Jackson area. We thank you so much for joining us. This is our entrepreneurship class. I've got a room full here with me at Velma Jackson High School, and we're recording this for all of our friends in Madison County Schools, Ridgeland High School, Madison Central High School, Germantown High School, the Academic Options Center, and our YouTube channel. So thank you so much for taking some time for us on your off day.
You're welcome.
Now, obviously, we want to talk all about all the great things you're doing with your business, not only on the salon side, but on the product side as well, doing some really cool things in the natural hair business. But just give us a little background. You're from Yazoo County, went to Yazoo County High School, and just
Yeah.
just just give us a little timeline after high school and your educational background and how you got into entrepreneurship.
Ooh wee. Okay. So graduated from Yazoo County High in 2001. I actually went to school at Holmes and Goodman. I started there. I actually went, y'all won't believe it, for industrial engineering. So I started out there. I actually got pregnant with my son at 19 while I was in college. So I ended up working for the Nissan supplier, but still stayed in school. And my husband kind of pushed me on off into the hair career field. I started doing hair as a kid, but it was just like a passion of mine to, I don't know, I just like to see people put together. So whenever I had cousins or family members that come over, I would always play in their hair. I just wanted to do it because it was just something in me. I couldn't stand to see nobody's hair out of place, even with dolls and everything. JJ, I'm sorry, my dog got something. JJ, yeah, I'm
All right, so we're
actually
back
just
after
running
a little
around.
technical difficulties, but go ahead and you like playing with hair and even with dolls.
Yes. So that just, I think my husband, he kind of pushed me on into that field um, because he asked me what my passion was. So that's kind of how I got off into, entrepreneurship. But I loved it so much, I kept going and kept going. And I've been doing it for 21 years. I'm also an educator, a cosmetology instructor. And I'm also a trichologist that practices hair loss. So I'm an associate certified trichologist that practices hair loss as well, help people regrow their hair back.
Well, and that's interesting that you mentioned that because I think cosmetologists don't get enough credit. Because it's
You
not just
don't.
about the Instagram, let's look pretty for a party. There's a lot of people that struggle with hair loss that need a good cosmetologist to help manage that. So much of that affects
Mhm.
people's mental health. That as we're finding out more and more every day, there's more health risk when it comes to hair loss that people don't know about. There's health risk when it comes to chemicals that people are putting in their hair. So there really is a lot of research and a lot of work that goes into being a great cosmetologist. Now,
Mm,
you can be a
yes.
great cosmetologist. We have several students that have become cosmetologists, gone to different community college and tech career programs. But that doesn't necessarily mean you're going to be a great entrepreneur because I always say, you can be great at something, but that doesn't mean you're great at running a business. Just because you're great at computers doesn't mean you can run a computer company. And I always use this example because I just think it's funny. We've all seen the billboards for Happy Tummy's GI Clinic here in Flowood. She's been a guest of this class. She's the only black woman GI pediatric GI doctor in the state of Mississippi. All these credentials, all these medical experience. She opened her own practice and realized she didn't have a clue. So the learning curve when it comes to being an entrepreneur is so great, no matter what field you're in. So obviously you had a lot of experience with hair, and you've gotten even more. So as you started opening your salon and started selling your products online, what are some things you had to learn? Because even if somebody doesn't want to do hair, there's a learning curve no matter what type of business you open when it comes from being an employee to an entrepreneur.
So the most important thing that I learned, well, opening my salon, I already had the clients. Um, and it was really word of mouth, really word of mouth. And once I opened, I'm booked out almost 2, 3 months in advance now. So I'm a hot commodity. I'm hard to get to.
Wow.
When I did my product line, the most important thing with the product line, yes, we think, okay, we have a product, we're gonna sell it. The thing that people fail to tell you, don't worry about trying to keep so much inventory, trying to sell. Put your money in marketing. The marketing is going to bring the sales, which the sales will supply the inventory. That's what that's going to be.
Yeah, and,
So
and
that's
if a product is good enough, people will wait for it.
and you're right. They will wait for it. They will wait for it. And so the marketing thing is the most important thing. And
Absolutely.
that's what I had
Now,
to learn the hard way, marketing.
yeah, and we're going to talk about your products because you're really on the cutting edge for some of this stuff. But something I always like to talk
Mhm.
about because, again, we've had several students that have come through our program that have gotten into cosmetology, even as a side gig. And I always use this example because I love messing with her. We had a young lady that graduated from here. She's now a nurse, and she was a loctician doing some hair work on the side, making a pretty good amount of money. And she starts posting her prices. And I said, I
Mhm.
don't know anything about hair, but I can tell you right now, you're not charging enough. And, it's easy to stay in that mindset of a high school student saying, I only have XYZ. I should only charge this because you're just thinking about what your friends have. You're not thinking about what your target audience would have. So, how do entrepreneurs of any type overcome that obstacle? Because a lot of these young business owners just want to be the cheapest instead of focusing on being the best.
They choose to be the cheapest. And the reason why they choose to be the cheapest because they feel like they're the cheapest, the more money that they bring in and the more clients. But they don't realize that they're overworking themselves and being underpaid. So once you put a price on yourself, you're going to attract the type of clients that you desire. Because just because it's cheap don't always mean you're going to get the best clients. Cheap only bring the most rudest, complaining, annoying clients. And I've had a couple people to tell me once they looked on my booking site and they saw prices for certain things, they were like, okay, what's she charging? I know she don't play. She ain't got time for games. Your prices attracts a certain audience. So I tell people all the time, charge your worth. Just because you're in cosmetology school or if you're not in a salon and you don't have an overhead, you can still put a price to your name, but when you get that overhead, then you got to factor in all the different bills that comes along with it. Everything that you profit is not profit. There is like what is it, a 70-30 rule or 80-20 rule that you have to put a certain percentage aside to continue to run the business.
Absolutely, and I'm glad you mentioned that because salons, restaurant, a lot of these brick and mortar businesses have a lot of overhead costs. Now, that doesn't mean you can't be profitable with them, but you really got to have a strong price structure, a strong business plan, and a strong background in the finance side. Because again, especially in the cosmetology and clothing industry, we see all the Instagram. I'm in Paris. I'm in Miami. We see all the hair by whoever, but you have to look at how's my book looking? Because if you just spend all your money on chairs or on chemicals and you haven't paid any taxes, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. So, what's the
A whole
learning
lot.
curve like? The financial side of the things behind the scenes that people who run businesses have to learn because it's a common tale. People can have great customer service, they can have a great product, they can deal with have a great marketing scheme, but they lose sight of the bookkeeping aspect. So, what are some things that kids need to learn and be aware of in that nature?
Okay, so the first thing is never put all your eggs in one basket, meaning have multiple bank accounts. I have a bank account that's strictly just for bills in my salon. I have a bank account that's strictly just for my product line. I have a bank account that's strictly just for all the money I make from hair services, but I use that particular account to funnel the money out. And I have a bank account joint with my husband for bills at home. I have about 5 or 6 bank accounts, and that's what a
Wow.
lot of people, yeah, it's a lot of accounting into it. That's what a lot of people kind of like mess over their money because when you're doing everything out of one account, it's easy to forget a bill or it's easy to, well, I thought I made this much, but you didn't because you didn't separate it. And this is something that I do at the end of every week. I spread my money out at the end of every week. Also, get a Intuit QuickBooks for entrepreneurship. They have a self-employed subscription. It's like $20, $25 a month. that particular account that you pay bills out of, you can hook all your accounts to it.
Wow.
And you can go in and label each transaction as if I pay a light bill. This is a utility expense. So every time I pay that light bill, it's gonna automatically label as that.
Wow.
Once I pay the rent, it's gonna be rent or mortgage. Every time I pay the rent or mortgage, it's gonna automatically label it as that. This is the easiest way to do it at the end of the year for tax purposes. Also, it's gonna let you know at the end of every quarter how much you need to pay in taxes. That's if you file quarterly. A lot of us don't file quarterly. A lot of us wait till the end of the year to do it, but at least it gives you a ideal amount of what you would owe once you do your taxes. But that's the best way to do it. You can have everything already. All you gotta do is just print out bank statements, just print out receipts, just print out the Intuit QuickBooks, and you got everything right there when it's time to itemize on your taxes.
Big time. Now, obviously, the cosmetology industry in March of 2020 was hit very hard by COVID. It was one
Mm-hmm.
of the biggest hit industries in the world when it came to people their livelihood being affected. But one thing
Mm-hmm.
you do have a great salon clientele. You have your location there in Pearl, but you also sell products. So a lot of people like yourself that were able to have multiple streams of income, multiple streams of business we're able to stay afloat. And you've done all kinds of research on the science of hair. You offer products that really nobody else can offer. And a couple of things. One, it gives you a great customer base, but two, it gives you the ability to maybe charge a little bit more. If people know they're getting a
Mm-hmm.
great product, we'll pay for it. So just talk
They will.
about how COVID really affected your business, but it didn't put you out of business. You just changed your focus for a few months and were able to focus on your product line and still get people things they needed.
So when COVID hit, I started getting a lot of clients that was losing their hair. It
Mm.
was like an influx. And it was coming from the COVID itself because it's like your body goes into a shock.
Yeah.
And then when you get the COVID medicine or when you're being treated with so much medicine, it's like there's a certain inflammation in the body. And when we get on medicines and our body is going through something, the hair is the first thing that gets attacked. Fall out thin, it doesn't matter what it is. So COVID pushed me into looking into a better product because all the medicines and toxins that's in your body and you in the process of losing hair or over time just using the worst products, all that stuff can coincide. So COVID pushed me into looking for a plant-based product, something to help heal the
Oh,
hair.
interesting.
Yes. Yes, because the products that we use on a regular are full of alcohol, they're full of formaldehyde, a whole lot of chemicals that can react with the medicines that's in our body because anything we put into our bodies that's medical, toxins and everything, it has to come out some kind of way. And it's either going to be through sweat, breathing, or through your hair follicles. That's why
Wow.
hair is the first thing that gets attacked. So that's when I went on into the U.S. Institute of Trichology in New York, and I got my trichology certification to be more in depth on the hair loss and how everything with hair loss really just starts within the gut. So I learned how to heal holistically and using plant-based now with better products to stop it in the long run, to give you a healthier hair care
Wow.
regimen. So that's what pushed me into getting my own hair care line because I wanted a better practice. It was just too much stuff interacting with people having allergy reactions, and with COVID and us getting the COVID shots, I even had a reaction. I've been dealing with my allergies and sinuses ever since COVID, and so it's a lot of things that I had to change in my salon.
Man, I had no idea. I just learned something. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Now one thing I always like to ask people in the cosmetology industry, and this is something I have a conversation I have with a lot of students because you always hear every customer isn't for you.
Fair enough.
Every business has a target audience. Now I always say that in cosmetology, a friend of mine who has since passed away, she had a multicultural salon in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. She could literally do your hair and then she could turn around and do my hair. And it was unbelievable. She could literally cut, style, do weaves, do wigs. It was unbelievable. And so many people of every race came to use her as their stylist. Now, do you really now obviously everybody's clientele is different, everybody's city and location is different. But as people are thinking about getting into this business, is that a good practice to to copy, or is it more lucrative, you think, to just focus on one type of hair?
I think if you are in this industry, we all say find our niche, whatever you're good at, that's what you stick to. So if you are a person that can slay Caucasian hair and slay African hair, do it. Do it.
Yeah.
Because all money is green. All money is green. I do both. I just don't
Cool.
advertise it. I do both. I just don't advertise it because I don't want to be so influxed. You know what I'm saying? So it's all about what you choose to dive in. So if you can do both, do it. That way you don't have to worry about this particular clientele slowing down when you got this over here. I tell people continuing education is always because we are a state license, we have to have certain amount of CEUs. Continuing
Oh,
education is the best way to go because if you can learn as much as you can, because there are seasons when certain things play out in this industry and we have to go back to doing things that are old, or when things come new, then we do continuing education to learn that, to add it to our regimen or our menu of services. So I tell everybody, like I used to tell my students, learn as much as you can in this industry or in any entrepreneurship industry. Learn as much as you can. That way, when one area die down, you skilled in another area, keep your money coming in.
absolutely.
So
Now, one thing that I think is very underrated in the cosmetology industry, and I know they get so sick of me talking about this, but it cannot be talked about enough because I sound like I'm beating a dead horse. But when it comes to communication, because I'm really big, because when we get done here in a few minutes, they're going to be doing some presentations that they've worked on. And it's all about getting comfortable speaking, getting comfortable selling yourself, selling a product. And I've had people tell me, "Look, I'm just going to do hair." I was like, "Well, first of all, that's not just something you put just in front of you. That's an important career. But second, how are you going to explain to a customer what you're going to do with their hair when they ask you a question? They're not going to be a cosmetology expert. So, as somebody that has to, you hold people's looks and possibly livelihood in your hands. If people need to look a certain way for a job interview or for an event, it's a lot more important than people realize. So, as somebody that is skilled at hair, how important is it also to be skilled at communication? Because the selling always has to be there. The communication and customer service always have to be there. You could be the best hair person in the world, but if you can't communicate, it's all for nothing.
communication is the key to it. Communication is so important. What people don't know is we actually have a chapter in our books that's called professional development.
Oh
So
wow.
professional development in the cosmetology class, it talks about proper communication. It talks about being professional when you're dealing with the clients one-on-one. It's basically consultation time, find out what it is that they have going on. Just be honest with them and let them know up front, because what happens is they're putting their trust in you and believing what you're saying as far as the decisions they're wanting to make with their hair or anything that's going on. So if you're talking to somebody and you just all nonchalant, ghetto, ratchet, you are what you attract. You are what you attract. That's the biggest thing. So if you want professional services, then you have to be professional. That communication is it's a deal breaker when it comes down to your business. So you have to learn how to communicate with the clients, even when they may tick you off. You still have to learn to keep a I'm trying to find the right word, a subtle face to deal with them, because some of them can make you fly off the rocker, on the communication part. But always learn to communicate with people. Even text messages have kind of
Oh yeah,
misconstrued a
big
lot,
time.
big time. So sometimes you have to ask as many questions as you can when it comes down to communicating. Make sure y'all on the same page. Your communication and the way you treat your clients or your customers, it goes a long way, because what happens is people will be word of mouth for your business. That's free marketing.
Yeah, and
So if
then
you
and on
treat
top of
people
that, in the cosmetology industry, especially, you're in the unique position of say, "Hey, I just used this on your hair. Do you want to buy your own bottle?" Now,
Right, right,
are they going to buy every time? No, but they know that that's available. And when they want to buy it, hey, she's going to use this on my hair when I get there. And then even when I can't get to her, I can buy a bottle from her and I can put it in my own hair. So little things like
right.
that, being able to make, a sale here and there. It is amazing how much better of an entrepreneur, and even if you don't want to be an entrepreneur, that makes you a great employee. I mean, I think as somebody that is an entrepreneur, you'd hire somebody that thinks like an entrepreneur because it helps your business. So just learning those sales skills is just so important. Now, I do have a couple questions. Unfortunately, I do have a lot of people absent today, but we still got some questions from the students. And I like this one. This is Caden Williams. He's in 10th grade, one of our state runner-up power lifters, one of our football players. And I just got the bell. Hold on one second. It interrupted me. All right. He goes, was it hard starting your own hair business? And what were the biggest obstacles you had to overcome being a black woman business owner?
It definitely wasn't hard to start the business because you come out of school with a few clients already. You kind of it's a trade. So when you in trade school, you start using your skills right then and there as you're learning. So when people know that you're in school, you're gonna have people coming to you, hey, can you do this? Can you do that? So you kind of start building right then and there. It was not hard at all. The only obstacle, probably the hardest obstacle that I faced was probably being consistent with being patient and waiting on the people and finding the right customers. Location matters also. I had to find the right location to serve. Um, the type of people you want to serve, you also have to look at that as well. If you like serving more of a professional clientele, then you got to try to find the right area because location is key as well. That's another thing people need to look at with the type of people that they want to serve in a business based on the products that they're, selling. And being a Black woman owned business, what I can say is it's hard for us to get funding. It's very hard for us to get funding. Everybody just want to slap credit cards on us, but we don't want credit cards all the time. So that's where it's hard at being a Black woman owned business. It's hard for us to get funding.
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned that about the location because I see a lot of young business owners. They just jump at the first one that's available. They don't do
And
any
that's
research
always a
about the
mistake.
area. They don't do any research about the traffic or anything like that because even small things like if people are worried about going through potholes to get to where you are, they're not going to come. Even if you're great, if there's anything, if you're next door to a business that has a bad reputation, even though you have nothing to do with it, people aren't going to come.
Right.
So it's
They're
very,
not going
very
to come.
important. Don't just jump at the first chance. Really do research on where you're putting your location.
Yes. Look at the demographics, think about the type of clients you're trying to serve. This is called your market analysis. If you haven't done business plans yet, this is in your business plan, market analysis. You need to know your market. Your location is very important based on the type of clients you're trying to serve. You need to know who your competitors are in that area. You need to know like the crime in the area because there were some locations that I was in before I opened my own salon. People wanted to patronize me, but they didn't want to patronize me based on where I was. I don't care how safe we were on the inside with you have to ring a doorbell for us to unlock the door to get in. It was the outside that they was concerned about. But where I am now, when I moved there, I've been busy for the last 5 years.
That's awesome.
Busy because they feel safe. So also think about that as well. Think about it.
Absolutely. And then and again and also when you look at your overhead cost, investing in a security system has never been a better investment than it is now. So always think about that as well. I got time for one more question. This is Terry Thompson. He's a senior, one of our football players here. And he asked,
Okay.
what made you know that this was the right decision when you first opened your business?
Everything happens in God's timing. Um, First opened my business as in when I got my own salon or just
Yeah.
when I first started. Okay. So yeah, when I first opened my own, this is funny how it happened. In 2019, I resigned from being a cosmetology instructor to prepare to open my own. COVID hit February of 2020.
Wow. Yeah.
That stalled. And I knew it was God's timing because I had just created everything I needed for the business, the name, the EIN, the LLC. I had just created all of that. I knew this was God's timing because when I resigned, my husband was like, "Well, what are you gonna do for the funding?" I was like, "I don't know. God gonna provide us some kind of way, but I'm willing to do what I gotta do. If I gotta get a loan." COVID hit, the EIDL came through, the PPP came through. That funded everything I needed. I was able to pay my stuff up for years.
Wow.
Yeah. So
Incredible.
God timing on everything. When it comes down to just follow your gut, follow your heart. Don't be so quick to rush into it. Everybody will tell you. And sometimes people will get into your head that don't know the business and they'll say, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. You listen to you. You listen to your heart, your mind, and your gut on when to move on your business. It's okay to rent a spot from somebody else right now. Depends on what you're doing. It's okay to rent from somebody else. But don't let people pressure you into doing something that you may not be financially ready for. Because when you move into a place, that structure may not be set up for your business. You got to look at the cost of plumbing. You got to look at the cost of painting. You got to look at the cost of reconstructing certain things. So move on your time. And one thing about it, God gonna let you know when it's time if you seek Him.
Absolutely. Well, we're almost out of time, and we thank you so much for taking some time for us. But a couple things before we go. First of all, you talked about your location. Tell us where the location is and where we can find everything online.
Okay. I am located in Pearl, Mississippi, off Old Brandon Road. It's 2709 Old Brandon Road, Pearl, Mississippi, 39208. And all my hair care products can be found at www.foryourglorybeauty.com. And do know that my shampoo, conditioner, and my leave-in hair drops can be used on everybody's hair. It's not just for African American hair.
Wow, that's
It
awesome.
can be on everybody. It's not oil based.
Yeah, and all your social medias are on there as well. Now, the last
Yes.
thing before we go, and for whatever reason, all of our young ladies are absent today. So I have all young men in here with me live. And we'll have a lot of people see this later, but I've got all young men in here with me live right now. So
Hmm.
as we've had these guests throughout the year, and as they get ready to transition out of high school or to their next steps, I think it's just so important for them to understand we need more successful black men in our communities. So
Yeah.
why is it so important for these young men to understand as they move on after high school? Not only are they needed, they are needed desperately to be successful and great role models for the next generation.
They're needed because they are strong in leadership. So if the next person coming behind them can see them doing it, then it's going to create a domino effect of more young black men wanting to be successful as well. So if they can see the one before them doing it, then they're going to want to do it. And it cuts out on a lot of crime. It cuts out on a lot of poverty. They're they're just needed because young black men need guidance from other young black men. Women can only do so much.
Yeah,
Women can only do so much. It's just something about that male figure that sets a dominance, and it's a father figure as well to them, even if they don't have a father in the home. It's just something about that dominance. They love looking up to other men. So boys, kids, even girls, we become what we look up to. We
yeah,
become what's in our surroundings. So if you ever want to do better, you got to start looking at surrounding yourself around people who are doing what you want to do. And sometimes that will also include separating yourself from friends and family.
absolutely. Well, again, we thank you so much for joining us. I know you're off today. You want to relax because you're closed on Monday. But again, we thank you so much for joining us, Kirby Cobb, the owner of For Your
Okay.
Beauty Glory there in Pearl, Mississippi. Thank you so much for taking time for us today.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right, talk to you soon, buddy.
That was